Finding Refuge. Psalm 46:1. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Chapter 1. Waves of Change. The sun hung high over Honolulu, casting a warm golden glow across the turquoise waters of the Pacific. The rhythmic sound of waves crashing against the shore filled the air, mingling with the laughter of tourists and the distant strumming of a ukulele. Jamie Jackson stood on her surfboard, balancing effortlessly as she guided a group of eager tourists through their first lesson. All right, everyone. Remember, it's all about finding your center. Jax called out, her voice bright and encouraging. She flashed a wide smile at her students, feeling the familiar rush of adrenaline that came with teaching. The ocean was her playground, and today, it felt particularly alive. As she demonstrated the perfect stance on her board, she caught sight of a young girl struggling to keep her balance. Jax paddled over, her heart swelling with determination. You got this. Just bend your knees a little more, she encouraged, positioning herself next to the girl. Feel the wave beneath you. With a few more tips and a gentle push from Jax, the girl finally caught a wave, squealing with delight as she rode it to shore. Jax couldn't help but laugh along with her, feeling that familiar thrill of joy that came from sharing her passion for surfing. But as the lesson continued and the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Jax felt an unfamiliar weight settle in her chest. The laughter around her faded into background noise as thoughts of her estranged father crept into her mind, thoughts she had tried to push away for far too long. After wrapping up the lesson and sending her students off with sun-kissed smiles and sandy feet, Jax waded back to shore. She shook out her hair, letting droplets of seawater spray around her like confetti, but the happiness didn't quite reach her eyes. Hey, great job out there. Kai called out from his spot on the beach, where he was setting up his easel for an afternoon painting session. He was a local artist Jax had met during one of her mural projects. His laid-back demeanor and genuine passion for art drew her in. Thanks. They were a fun group, Jax replied, forcing a smile as she approached him. What are you working on today? Just capturing the sunset, Kai said, gesturing toward the vibrant colors beginning to streak across the sky. But I'd love to hear about your day too. Jax hesitated for a moment before shrugging off her internal turmoil. It was good. Just another day in paradise. She glanced at the horizon where the ocean met the sky and felt an ache deep within, a longing for something more than just waves and sandcastles. As they chatted about art and surf culture, Jax felt herself relax slightly. Kai had that effect on her. He made it easy to forget about everything else, even if only for a little while. But just as she began to lose herself in their conversation, an unexpected phone call interrupted. Excuse me, Jax said apologetically as she pulled out her phone. The screen lit up with an unfamiliar number, one she hadn't seen in years. Her heart raced as she answered. Jax. A gravelly voice came through, the voice of someone she hadn't spoken to since she was a teenager. Dad? The words slipped out before she could stop it, surprise mingling with hesitation. Yeah. I'm in Honolulu, he said slowly. I need you to come to the hospital. The world around Jax seemed to tilt on its axis. Her father, the man who had walked out on their family years ago, was asking for help? What happened? She managed to ask, trying to keep her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions churning inside her. I had an accident, he replied gruffly. I'm okay, but I need you here. Jax's heart raced as confusion and anger battled within her. After all this time, after all those years of silence, why now? Why when everything seemed perfect? I can't just drop everything, she said defensively. Please, he pleaded softly. I know I messed up, but I need you. The weight of his words hung heavily in the air between them. Jax looked at Kai, who was watching her intently, concern etched across his face. She could feel his presence grounding her amid the chaos swirling in her mind. I'll be there, she finally said, though uncertainty gnawed at her insides like a relentless tide threatening to pull her under. After ending the call, Jax stood frozen for a moment as reality crashed down around her like waves breaking against rocks. She felt torn between anger and concern, between wanting to confront him about everything he had put their family through and feeling an inexplicable urge to be there for him now. You okay? Kai asked gently, stepping closer as he sensed something was off. Not really, Jax admitted reluctantly. She took a deep breath and glanced back toward the ocean, a place that had always been her refuge but now felt distant and uninviting. My dad. He's in the hospital. Kai's expression softened with understanding. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't even know what to think right now, Jax confessed, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. He left us when I was young, and now he wants me to come. You have every right to feel angry, Kai said thoughtfully. But maybe this is an opportunity for both of you. Jax looked at him skeptically but couldn't shake off his words completely. Maybe it was time to confront those buried feelings instead of letting them fester like an unhealed wound. As twilight descended over Honolulu, a palette of purples and oranges painting the sky, Jax made up her mind. She would go see him. But deep down inside, uncertainty lingered like shadows cast by fading light. How could she find strength when all she felt was turmoil? With one last glance at Kai and his easel, an anchor in this stormy sea of emotions, she turned away from the beach and headed toward an uncertain future filled with unresolved questions about family and forgiveness waiting just beyond those hospital doors ahead. Chapter 2: The Storm. The next morning, Jax woke up to the sound of rain pattering against her window. The vibrant colors of the Hawaiian landscape were muted under a blanket of gray clouds, and the air felt heavy with humidity. She sat up in bed, the events of the previous day swirling in her mind like the storm brewing outside. After her father's call, she had spent a restless night tossing and turning, grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, confusion, and a flicker of concern battled for dominance in her heart. Why had he waited so long to reach out? Did he really want to reconnect, or was this just another ploy to manipulate her? With a sigh, Jax swung her legs over the side of the bed and rubbed her temples. She needed to clear her head before heading to the hospital. Maybe a quick surf session would help. The ocean always had a way of calming her nerves. But as she stepped outside, she was met with sheets of rain and gusty winds that whipped through the palm trees. The ocean roared in the distance, waves crashing violently against the shore, a stark contrast to her usual morning routine. Guess that's not happening, she muttered to herself as she retreated back inside. Instead, she grabbed her sketchbook and settled at her kitchen table, hoping that pouring her feelings onto paper would provide some clarity. As she sketched, images of turbulent waves filled the pages, each stroke reflecting the chaos inside her. The storm outside mirrored her inner turmoil, and she felt a sense of connection to nature's fury. But as she drew, a nagging thought crept in: would this storm bring destruction or renewal? After what felt like hours lost in thought, Jax reluctantly decided it was time to face reality. She dressed quickly in a pair of jeans and a loose tank top, pulling her hair back into a messy bun. With one last glance at her artwork, an unfinished depiction of crashing waves, she grabbed her keys and headed out. The drive to the hospital felt surreal. The rain continued to pour, creating rivers on the road that reflected the gray sky above. Jax's heart raced as she parked in front of the hospital, anxiety clawing at her insides. As she walked through the sliding glass doors, the sterile scent of antiseptic hit her like a wave. The hospital buzzed with activity, nurses moving quickly between rooms, doctors consulting over charts, and families waiting anxiously for news about their loved ones. Jax approached the reception desk and took a deep breath. "I'm here to see John Jackson," she said hesitantly. The receptionist looked up from her computer screen and nodded. "Room 302. He's stable but still recovering from surgery." "Thank you," Jax replied softly before making her way down the hallway. With each step toward room 302, memories flooded back. Memories of childhood laughter turned into echoes of disappointment when he walked out on their family. The anger bubbled beneath the surface again as she approached his door. Taking a moment to gather herself, Jax knocked softly before entering. The sight that greeted her was unexpected. Her father lay in a hospital bed with tubes connected to his arms and monitors beeping steadily beside him. He looked frail, older than she remembered, and for a moment, all anger faded as concern washed over her. "Dad," she said tentatively as she stepped inside. His eyes fluttered open at the sound of her voice. "Jax," he croaked, his voice barely above a whisper. She moved closer, feeling an unfamiliar mixture of emotions swirl within her, anger still simmering but softened by concern for his well-being. What happened? I had an accident while working on my truck, he explained slowly, wincing slightly as he shifted in bed. Just slipped off the jack. It's nothing serious. Nothing serious? Jax echoed incredulously. You're in a hospital bed. He sighed heavily as if carrying an invisible weight on his shoulders. I know I messed up. I should have been there for you and your mother. Jax crossed her arms defensively but felt tears prick at her eyes despite herself. You think saying sorry now makes it all okay? You left us. You disappeared without a word. I know, he said quietly, looking away from her gaze as guilt washed over his features. I can't change what I did, but I want to make things right. What does that even mean? Jax challenged him, frustration bubbling up again as anger resurfaced like waves crashing against rocks. It means I want to be part of your life again, he said earnestly, meeting her gaze with sincerity etched across his face. Jax felt torn between wanting to scream at him for all those years lost and wanting to believe that maybe, just maybe, he was sincere this time. But how could she trust him after everything? I don't know if I can do that, she admitted finally, feeling vulnerable yet resolute. I understand, he replied softly. But I'm asking for another chance. The room fell silent as they both absorbed what had been said, a chasm of unspoken words stretching between them filled with years of hurt and longing for connection. Just then, there was a knock on the door before it swung open slightly. A nurse entered with a warm smile on her face. Good morning. Just checking on Mr. Jackson here. Jax stepped back slightly as the nurse began checking his vitals and adjusting his foredrip. As she worked efficiently but kindly, Jax felt an unexpected wave of gratitude wash over her for these caregivers who dedicated their lives to helping others, even when it came at a personal cost. Everything looks good, the nurse said cheerfully before turning toward Jax with an encouraging smile. You're doing great by being here for him. Jax nodded silently but couldn't shake off the weight pressing down on her heart. The storm brewing both outside and within mirrored what lay ahead, uncertainty about whether forgiveness could truly be found amid so much pain. As Jax left room 302 later that day, her mind swirling with conflicting emotions, she couldn't help but feel that perhaps this storm wasn't just about destruction. Maybe it held potential for renewal too, if only she could find strength amid turmoil waiting just beyond those hospital doors ahead. Chapter 3. A Refuge in Art. The rain continued to pour over Honolulu for the next few days, transforming the vibrant streets into a mosaic of puddles and reflections. Jax found herself retreating into her apartment more than usual, the storm outside mirroring the turmoil inside her heart. The conversations with her father had left her feeling raw and exposed, and she needed an outlet to process everything swirling within her. On the third day of rain, Jax decided to pick up her paintbrushes and dive into a project she had been neglecting for far too long. Her living room was a makeshift studio filled with canvases, tubes of paint, and brushes scattered haphazardly across the floor. She hadn't painted since before her father's accident, and now it felt like a long-lost friend calling her back. As she set up her easel near the window, Jax gazed out at the gray sky. The ocean roared beneath the clouds, waves crashing violently against the shore. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a reminder of how life could be unpredictable. Taking a deep breath, she squeezed bright blues and greens onto her palette and began to paint. With each stroke of the brush, Jax poured her emotions onto the canvas. She painted waves, some crashing violently against rocks, others gently lapping at the shore. The colors blended together, creating a chaotic yet mesmerizing scene that reflected her inner conflict. She felt as if she were battling the storm within herself while simultaneously finding refuge in the act of creation. Hours slipped away as she lost herself in her artwork, each brushstroke becoming a cathartic release. The rain continued to fall outside, but inside, Jax felt a sense of calm begin to settle over her. Just as she was finishing up a particularly intense wave, there was a knock at her door. Startled, Jax stepped back from her painting and wiped her hands on a rag before opening the door. Hey there. Kai stood on her doorstep, drenched from head to toe but grinning widely. I thought I'd check in on you. Wow. You really know how to make an entrance, Jax teased, stepping aside to let him in. Come in before you turn into a fish. Kai chuckled as he stepped inside, shaking water off his hair like a wet dog. "I'm not sure how much longer I can take this rain," he said dramatically. "I might start sprouting gills." Jax laughed as she closed the door behind him. "It's definitely been a downpour lately." As he looked around her apartment, his eyes landed on the canvas propped up against the wall. "Whoa, this is amazing," he exclaimed, stepping closer to examine it. "Thanks. I just started working on it," Jax replied modestly, feeling a flush of pride at his compliment. "What inspired this?" Kai asked, tilting his head as he studied the tumultuous waves. Jax hesitated for a moment before answering. "Honestly, it's been a rough few days," she admitted, feeling vulnerable but trusting Kai's genuine nature. "I've been dealing with some family stuff. My dad is in the hospital." Kai's expression softened with understanding. "I'm really sorry to hear that," he said quietly. "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here." "Thanks," Jax replied, appreciating his offer more than she could express. "It's just complicated." "Complicated is an understatement," Kai said with a knowing smile as he stepped back from the canvas and turned toward her. "But art can be such a powerful way to process those feelings." "I know," Jax said thoughtfully as she picked up her brush again and added more color to the waves. "It's like therapy for me." "I get that," Kai replied enthusiastically. "What if we collaborated on something? I could bring my easel over tomorrow. We could create something together." Jax raised an eyebrow in surprise at his suggestion, but felt excitement bubbling within her at the thought of working alongside him. "That could be fun. What do you have in mind?" "How about we create a mural on that wall?" Kai pointed toward an empty space that had been begging for attention since she moved in. "Something that captures both our styles, your waves and my landscapes." "Are you serious?" Jax asked incredulously but couldn't hide her grin. "Absolutely. We could make it something really special," he said with enthusiasm. Jax felt a spark of inspiration ignite within her at his suggestion, a chance to create something beautiful while sharing this experience with someone who understood what it meant to find refuge in art. "All right, let's do it," she agreed eagerly. As they began brainstorming ideas for their mural, discussing colors and themes, Jax felt lighter than she had in days. The storm outside continued its relentless assault on the island, but inside her apartment, laughter and creativity filled the air like sunshine breaking through clouds. Later that evening, after Kai left with plans for their collaboration set in motion, Jack sat down with her sketchbook once more. She began sketching ideas for their mural, waves intertwining with landscapes under vibrant skies, a reflection of both their artistic styles merging into one cohesive piece. In that moment of creation, a moment filled with hope, she realized that perhaps art could be more than just an escape. It could also be a bridge connecting two souls searching for refuge amid life's storms. As she closed her sketchbook and glanced out at the rain-soaked streets of Honolulu, seeing beyond just gray clouds, she felt renewed strength begin to blossom within herself. Maybe this storm would lead not only to renewal, but also to unexpected connections waiting just beyond those turbulent waters ahead. Chapter 4: Unexpected Connections. The following morning, the rain had finally subsided, leaving behind a fresh, glistening landscape. The sun peeked through the clouds, casting a warm glow over Honolulu and inviting Jax to step outside. Today was the day she and Kai would begin their mural, and excitement bubbled within her as she prepared for their artistic adventure. Jax gathered her supplies, paint, brushes, and a few snacks, before heading to the beach where they had agreed to meet. The ocean sparkled invitingly under the sunlight, and she could hear the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. As she approached their chosen wall, a blank canvas waiting to be transformed, she spotted Kai already there, setting up his easel. "Hey," Jax called out, waving enthusiastically as she approached. "Good morning. Ready to create some magic?" Kai replied with a grin, his enthusiasm infectious. "Absolutely. I've been thinking about our design," Jax said as she laid out her supplies on the ground. "What if we start with a sunset over the ocean? I can paint the waves while you work on the sky." "That sounds perfect," Kai exclaimed, his eyes lighting up with inspiration. "And we can add some palm trees swaying in the breeze to give it that classic Hawaiian feel." As they began sketching their ideas on the wall, Jax felt a sense of freedom wash over her. The act of creating alongside Kai was invigorating. They bounced ideas off each other, blending their styles seamlessly. With each stroke of paint, Jax found herself laughing and enjoying the process more than she had in a long time. "Your waves are incredible," Kai said as he stepped back to admire her work. "They have so much energy." "Thanks. I'm really glad we're doing this together," Jax replied, feeling a warmth spread through her chest at his praise. As they painted, they shared stories about their lives. Kai talked about growing up in Hawaii and how he had always found solace in nature and art. He revealed that he had lost his mother several years ago and had turned to painting as a way to cope with his grief. "It's like my way of keeping her memory alive," he explained, his voice softening. "Every brushstroke feels like a connection to her." Jax listened intently, feeling a deep sense of empathy for him. "I can relate to that," she admitted. "I've been dealing with some family issues myself. My dad is in the hospital after an accident." Kai paused for a moment, his expression shifting to one of concern. "I'm really sorry to hear that. How are you holding up?" "I'm trying to figure it out," Jax replied honestly. "It's complicated. He left when I was young, and now he wants to reconnect after all these years." "That's tough," Kai said sympathetically. "It's okay to feel conflicted about it." "Yeah," Jax sighed, dipping her brush into vibrant blue paint before adding more waves to the mural. "Some days I'm angry at him for abandoning us. Other days I just feel sad for what could have been." Kai nodded thoughtfully as he continued painting the sky above them, a beautiful gradient of orange and pink hues that mirrored Jax's emotions in unexpected ways. "Art can help you process those feelings," he said gently. "It's like giving voice to what's inside." As they worked side by side, Jax felt a connection growing between them, a bond forged through shared experiences and vulnerability. She appreciated how easily Kai opened up about his past. It made her feel safe enough to share her own struggles. After hours of painting and laughter under the warm Hawaiian sun, they finally stepped back to admire their work. A stunning mural depicting waves crashing beneath a vibrant sunset with palm trees swaying gently in the breeze. "It looks amazing," Jax exclaimed, feeling a rush of pride at what they had created together. "Yeah, we make a great team," Kai said with a satisfied grin. As they packed up their supplies, Jax felt lighter than she had in days. The act of creating something beautiful had helped ease some of the weight pressing down on her heart. "Let's celebrate our masterpiece," Kai suggested as they walked toward a nearby cafe known for its delicious acai bowls. "Sounds perfect," Jax replied, feeling excited at the thought of spending more time with him outside of their art project. At the cafe, they ordered their bowls topped with fresh fruit and granola before finding a cozy table outside under colorful umbrellas. As they dug into their food, laughter bubbled between them, each shared story drawing them closer together. "So what's next for you?" Kai asked between bites. "Any big plans after this mural?" Jax hesitated for a moment as she considered her answer. "Honestly, I've been thinking about showcasing my art in a gallery someday," she admitted shyly. "But I've always been too scared to put myself out there." "You should totally go for it," Kai encouraged enthusiastically. "Your work deserves to be seen." "I don't know. What if no one likes it?" Jax replied, feeling doubt creep back in. "Who cares what others think? Art is subjective," he said passionately. "What matters is that you express yourself and share your story." As they finished their bowls and chatted about dreams and aspirations under the fading sun, Jax felt inspired by Kai's unwavering support and encouragement. It ignited something within her, a flicker of hope that maybe she could pursue her passion after all. Later that evening, as they walked back toward the beach where their mural stood proudly against the setting sun, Jax couldn't shake off an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this unexpected connection forged through art and vulnerability amidst life's storms ahead waiting just beyond those turbulent waters. Chapter 5: Turbulent Waters. The following days brought a mix of sunshine and rain to Honolulu, but Jax felt the clouds gathering within her. The mural she had created with Kai had become a vibrant symbol of hope and connection, yet the weight of her father's situation loomed heavily in the background. Each time she glanced at the waves painted on the wall, they reminded her of the turbulent emotions she was struggling to navigate. Despite her efforts to stay focused on her art and her newfound friendship with Kai, Jax found herself preoccupied with thoughts of her father. She hadn't visited him since their initial meeting in the hospital, and guilt gnawed at her for not reaching out more. But every time she thought about going back, anger surged within her, anger at him for abandoning her and sadness for the relationship they never had. One afternoon, as she sat in her apartment working on a new painting, the phone rang. The caller ID displayed the hospital's number, sending a jolt of anxiety through her. She hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello?" Jax's voice trembled slightly. "Hi, is this Jamie Jackson?" A nurse's voice came through the line. "Yes, it is," Jax replied, bracing herself for what was to come. "I'm calling to inform you that your father has been moved to a recovery room after his surgery," the nurse said. "He's stable now, but he would like to see you if you're able to come by." Jax's heart raced at the news. I'll think about it," she said, trying to keep her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions crashing inside her. "Of course. Just let us know if you change your mind," the nurse replied kindly before ending the call. As she hung up, Jax felt a wave of conflicting emotions wash over her, relief that he was okay mixed with anger that he still wanted to see her after everything that had happened. Why did he think he could just waltz back into her life? Frustrated, she pushed aside her paintbrushes and grabbed her surfboard instead. Maybe hitting the waves would help clear her mind. She needed to escape, to feel the ocean beneath her feet and let it wash away some of this turmoil. The beach was relatively quiet when Jax arrived, with only a few surfers scattered along the shore. The ocean glistened under the afternoon sun, inviting yet intimidating. As she paddled out into the water, she felt a sense of freedom enveloping her, the salty air filling her lungs as she focused on finding balance on her board. But as she caught wave after wave, riding them with ease, Jax couldn't shake off the thoughts creeping back in. The ocean felt like a reflection of her inner chaos, sometimes calm and beautiful, other times wild and unpredictable. After an hour of surfing, exhaustion began to set in. Jax paddled back to shore and collapsed onto the sand, breathing heavily as she stared up at the sky. The sun was beginning to dip toward the horizon, casting hues of orange and pink across the sky, reminding her of the mural she had painted with Kai. As she lay there in silence, lost in thought, she heard footsteps approaching. Turning her head slightly, Jax saw Kai walking toward her with a concerned expression etched across his face. "Hey, I thought I might find you here," he said as he reached her side. "How was it?" "It was good," Jax replied honestly, but felt a heaviness settle in her chest again. "But I'm feeling conflicted." Kai sat down beside her on the sand. "About your dad?" "Yeah," Jax admitted, running a hand through her hair as frustration bubbled up again. "I just don't know what to do anymore. One minute I want to scream at him for leaving us. The next minute I feel guilty for not being there." "That's completely understandable," Kai said gently. "It's okay to feel angry and confused." "I know that," Jax replied sharply before softening at his understanding gaze. "It's just, I thought I could handle it all on my own." "You don't have to," he said firmly but kindly. "You have people who care about you. Like me." Jax looked at him, surprised by his sincerity. "You really mean that?" "Of course. We're friends now," Kai said with a reassuring smile. "And friends support each other through tough times." Jax felt warmth spread through her heart at his words, a reminder that maybe she didn't have to face everything alone after all. But even as gratitude washed over her, doubt lingered in the back of her mind. Could she truly let someone in after years of building walls around herself? "I just don't want to get hurt again," Jax confessed quietly. Kai nodded thoughtfully as he gazed out at the ocean waves rolling onto shore. "I get it. But sometimes opening up can lead to healing, both for you and your dad." As they sat together in comfortable silence watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors, Jax felt herself torn between wanting to push him away and wanting to lean on him for support. Eventually, they stood up together and walked along the shoreline, the cool water lapping at their feet as they talked about everything from art to surfing techniques, laughter mingling with shared stories creating an unexpected bond between them. But as they walked back toward their cars later that evening, Jax felt an overwhelming sense of uncertainty creeping back in like shadows stretching across twilight skies ahead. What if facing these turbulent waters meant confronting not only her past but also opening herself up to new connections waiting just beyond those waves? That night as Jax lay in bed staring at the ceiling above, Thoughts swirling like storm clouds gathering once more, she realized that perhaps facing these challenges head-on could lead not only toward resolution, but also toward unexpected connections waiting just beyond those turbulent waters ahead. Chapter 6: A Moment of Clarity. The following day dawned bright and clear, the storm clouds that had lingered over Honolulu finally giving way to a brilliant blue sky. Jax awoke feeling a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Today was the day she planned to visit her father in the hospital again. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. After a quick breakfast, she stood in front of the mirror, her heart pounding as she adjusted her hair. She had decided to wear a simple sundress, hoping it would help her feel more at ease. The vibrant colors reflected the warmth of the day, but inside, she felt like a storm was brewing. As she drove to the hospital, Jax replayed their last conversation in her mind, the anger and hurt that had surfaced like waves crashing against rocks. What would she say this time? Would she confront him about his absence, or would she let it go? Arriving at the hospital, Jax took a deep breath before stepping inside. The familiar scent of antiseptic hit her as she walked through the sliding doors, and her heart raced with each step toward room 302. She paused outside his door, her hand hovering over the handle as uncertainty washed over her. "Just breathe," she whispered to herself, recalling Kai's words about facing challenges head-on. With a deep breath, she pushed the door open. Her father lay in bed, looking frail and vulnerable. The machines beeped softly around him, and he turned his head at the sound of her entrance. "Jax," he said weakly, his voice hoarse but filled with relief. "Hey," she replied, trying to keep her tone neutral as she stepped inside. "How are you?" he asked, his eyes searching hers for answers. "I'm okay," Jax said hesitantly as she took a seat beside him. "How are you feeling?" "Better," he replied with a faint smile. "The doctors say I'm recovering well." Silence hung between them for a moment, an awkward pause filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. Jax felt the weight of years of hurt pressing down on her chest. "I've been thinking about what you said last time," she began cautiously. "About wanting to reconnect." His expression shifted to one of hope mixed with apprehension. "I meant it, Jax. I know I messed up. I just want to be part of your life again. Do you even understand what that means?" Jax challenged, frustration bubbling up again. "You left us. You broke our family apart." "I know," he said quietly, pain etched across his features. "And I can't change that. But I've spent so much time regretting my decisions. I just want to make things right." Jax felt tears prick at her eyes as anger and sadness collided within her. "It's not that simple. You can't just waltz back in and expect everything to be okay." "I don't expect forgiveness right away," he replied earnestly. "But I'm hoping for a chance to show you that I've changed." As they locked eyes, Jax felt something shift within her, a flicker of understanding mingled with lingering resentment. Could it be possible for them to find common ground? Could they rebuild what had been lost? "Why did you leave?" Jax asked softly, needing answers to questions that had haunted her for years. "I was scared," he admitted, his voice trembling slightly. "I didn't know how to be a father or a husband. I thought leaving would make things easier for everyone." "Easier?" Jax echoed incredulously. "You have no idea how hard it's been without you." "I know," he said quietly, tears glistening in his eyes. "And I'm so sorry for that." In that moment of vulnerability, seeing the pain reflected in his eyes, Jax felt walls begin to crumble around her heart. Maybe this was what it meant to confront the storm within, to allow herself to feel anger, but also compassion. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet," she admitted honestly, feeling raw but resolute. "That's okay," he replied softly. "I'll be here whenever you're ready." As they continued talking, sharing stories about their lives since they last saw each other, Jax felt an unexpected connection begin to form between them amidst all the hurt and confusion. Hours slipped away as they talked about everything from childhood memories to dreams unfulfilled, laughter mingled with tears creating an atmosphere filled with healing potential waiting just beneath the surface. Eventually, as the sun began to set outside the hospital window, casting warm golden light across the room, Jax realized how far they had come in just one conversation. Maybe this storm wasn't just about destruction after all. It could also be about renewal if only she allowed herself to embrace it fully. As she stood up to leave later that evening, her heart feeling lighter than when she arrived, Jax knew this was only the beginning of their journey together, but perhaps facing these turbulent waters could lead not only toward resolution, but also toward unexpected connections waiting just beyond those waves ahead. Chapter 7. Seeking Shelter. The following week, Jax found herself in a state of cautious optimism. Her visit with her father had opened a door she thought was permanently closed, and while she still felt a whirlwind of emotions, there was a flicker of hope shining through the clouds. She had decided to take things one step at a time, allowing herself to explore the possibility of rebuilding their relationship. As she walked along the beach, the sun warmed her skin, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore provided a soothing backdrop. Today was the day she planned to visit her father in the hospital again. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. Arriving at the hospital, Jax took a deep breath before stepping inside. The familiar scent of antiseptic hit her as she walked through the sliding doors, and her heart raced with each step toward room 302. She paused outside his door, her hand hovering over the handle as uncertainty washed over her. "Just breathe," she whispered to herself, recalling Kai's words about facing challenges head-on. With a deep breath, she pushed the door open. Her father lay in bed, looking frail and vulnerable. The machines beeped softly around him, and he turned his head at the sound of her entrance. "Jax," he said weakly, his voice hoarse but filled with relief. "Hey," she replied, trying to keep her tone neutral as she stepped inside. "How are you?" he asked, his eyes searching hers for answers. "I'm okay," Jax said hesitantly as she took a seat beside him. "How are you feeling?" "Better," he replied with a faint smile. "The doctors say I'm recovering well." Silence hung between them for a moment, an awkward pause filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. Jax felt the weight of years of hurt pressing down on her chest. "I've been thinking about what you said last time," she began cautiously. "About wanting to reconnect." His expression shifted to one of hope mixed with apprehension. "I meant it, Jax. I know I messed up. I just want to be part of your life again. Do you even understand what that means?" Jax challenged, frustration bubbling up again as anger resurfaced like waves crashing against rocks. "You left us. You broke our family apart." "I know," he said quietly, pain etched across his features. "And I can't change that. But I've spent so much time regretting my decisions. I just want to make things right." Jax felt tears prick at her eyes as anger and sadness collided within her. "It's not that simple. You can't just waltz back in and expect everything to be okay." "I don't expect forgiveness right away," he replied earnestly. "But I'm hoping for a chance to show you that I've changed." As they locked eyes, Jax felt something shift within her, a flicker of understanding mingled with lingering resentment. Could it be possible for them to find common ground? Could they rebuild what had been lost? "Why did you leave?" Jax asked softly, needing answers to questions that had haunted her for years. "I was scared," he admitted, his voice trembling slightly. "I didn't know how to be a father or a husband. I thought leaving would make things easier for everyone." "Easier?" Jax echoed incredulously. "You have no idea how hard it's been without you." "I know," he said quietly, tears glistening in his eyes. "And I'm so sorry for that." In that moment of vulnerability, seeing the pain reflected in his eyes, Jax felt walls begin to crumble around her heart. Maybe this was what it meant to confront the storm within, to allow herself to feel anger, but also compassion. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet," she admitted honestly, feeling raw but resolute. "That's okay," he replied softly. "I'll be here whenever you're ready." As they continued talking, sharing stories about their lives since they last saw each other, Jax felt an unexpected connection begin to form between them amidst all the hurt and confusion. Hours slipped away as they talked about everything from childhood memories to dreams unfulfilled. Laughter mingled with tears, creating an atmosphere filled with healing potential waiting just beneath the surface. Eventually, as the sun began to set outside the hospital window, casting warm golden light across the room, Jax realized how far they had come in just one conversation. Maybe this storm wasn't just about destruction, it could also be about renewal if only they allowed themselves to embrace it fully. When it was time for Jax to leave, She stood up and turned toward her father with newfound determination in her heart. "I'll come back tomorrow," she said firmly. "Thank you," he replied, his voice filled with gratitude. As she walked out of room 302 and into the bustling hospital corridor, the sounds of life swirling around her, Jax felt a sense of clarity begin to wash over her like sunlight breaking through clouds after a storm. Maybe this was just the beginning, not only for their relationship but also for herself as she navigated these turbulent waters ahead. Perhaps facing these challenges would lead not only toward resolution, but also toward unexpected connections waiting just beyond those waves, connections that could help guide her toward healing and hope in ways she had never imagined possible before now. Chapter 8. Embracing Change. With renewed strength from her experiences and conversations with Kai about faith, Jax felt a surge of inspiration as she returned to the mural on the beach. The vibrant colors of the sunset they had painted together seemed to glow even brighter under the midday sun, a testament to their hard work and collaboration. Today was not just about finishing the mural, it was about embracing the changes happening in her life. As she added final touches to the waves, Jax reflected on how much had shifted for her in such a short time. The conversations with her father had opened her heart in ways she hadn't anticipated, and her friendship with Kai had blossomed into something meaningful. She felt a sense of purpose beginning to blossom within her, fueled by the desire to share her art and story with others. "Hey, Jax," Kai called out as he approached, carrying a cooler filled with drinks and snacks. "I brought some refreshments for our hard work." "Perfect timing," Jax replied, stepping back from the mural to admire their progress. "It's looking amazing." "Thanks. I think we really captured the essence of what we wanted," Kai said, setting down the cooler and taking a moment to appreciate their creation. "It feels alive." They shared laughter and stories as they enjoyed their snacks on the beach, basking in the warmth of the sun. As they talked about their dreams and aspirations, Jax felt a growing sense of confidence within her. "I've been thinking about entering my artwork in that local art show next month," she said, surprising herself with her boldness. "Really? That's fantastic," Kai exclaimed, his eyes lighting up with excitement. "You should absolutely do it. Your work deserves to be seen." "I'm nervous," Jax admitted, feeling vulnerability creep back in. "What if no one likes it? What if I fail?" "Failure is just part of the journey," Kai reassured her. "What matters is that you put yourself out there. You never know who might connect with your art." As they continued their conversation, Jax felt inspired by Kai's unwavering support. His belief in her ignited a fire within her, a determination to embrace change and take risks. Later that evening, as they wrapped up for the day and stepped back to admire their mural one last time, Jax felt a sense of pride swell within her. The mural was a stunning depiction of resilience and hope, a reflection of both their journeys intertwined. "This is just the beginning," she said confidently, looking at Kai with newfound resolve. "I want to keep creating and sharing my story. I'm excited to see where this takes you," he replied warmly. "And I'll be right here cheering you on." As they packed up their supplies and headed toward their cars, Jax felt a sense of clarity wash over her, a realization that embracing change meant stepping outside of her comfort zone and allowing herself to grow. The following weeks flew by as Jax poured herself into preparing for the art show. She worked tirelessly on new pieces while refining her skills, each stroke of paint becoming an act of defiance against self-doubt. With each completed canvas, she felt more empowered and connected to her true self. On the night of the art show, Jax stood nervously in front of her display, a collection of vibrant paintings that told her story through color and emotion. The gallery buzzed with energy as locals mingled, admiring various artworks showcased throughout the space. "Jax, your work looks incredible," Mia exclaimed as she approached, beaming with pride. "Thanks." "I'm so nervous," Jax admitted, glancing around at the crowd. "You've got this," Mia encouraged, giving her a reassuring squeeze on the shoulder before stepping back to admire one of Jax's paintings. "This piece really captures your journey." As more people gathered around her display, Jax felt a mix of excitement and anxiety swirl within her. She began engaging in conversations with attendees, sharing stories behind each painting and connecting with others who resonated with her experiences. Throughout the evening, Jax found herself surrounded by supportive friends, Kai standing nearby offering encouragement, while Mia chatted animatedly with guests about Jax's work. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly seen, not just as an artist, but as someone whose story mattered. As the night wore on and laughter filled the air, Jax realized that embracing change didn't mean erasing her past. It meant learning from it and allowing herself to grow stronger through vulnerability. When it was finally time for awards to be announced, the culmination of all their hard work, Jax stood among fellow artists feeling proud simply for having taken this leap into uncertainty. And now for Best Emerging Artist, the host announced, pausing dramatically before revealing the winner. The award goes to Jamie Jax Jackson. Jax's heart raced as applause erupted around her. Disbelief washed over her as she stepped forward to accept the award. Standing before everyone, her friends cheering loudly, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this moment, the culmination of embracing change and allowing herself to be vulnerable. As she held the award high above her head, a symbol not just of recognition but also resilience, Jax knew this was only the beginning. She was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, not just for herself but also for those connections waiting just beyond those waves ahead, connections that would help guide her toward healing and hope in ways she had never imagined possible before now. Chapter 9: The Art of Connection. The following week, Jax found herself riding a wave of exhilaration and nervousness as she prepared for the art show. The recognition she received for her work had ignited a fire within her, and she was determined to make the most of this opportunity. With Kai by her side, she felt more confident than ever, ready to share her story and connect with others through her art. As the day of the show approached, Jax spent hours perfecting her pieces. Each painting became a reflection of her journey, her struggles, her triumphs, and the connections she had forged along the way. She poured her heart into every brushstroke, feeling a sense of purpose that had been missing in her life for far too long. On the evening of the art show, Jax arrived at the gallery early to set up her display. The space buzzed with energy as artists and attendees mingled, laughter and conversation filling the air. Jax's heart raced with anticipation as she arranged her paintings, each one telling a story that was uniquely hers. "Hey, you ready for this?" Kai asked as he joined her, carrying a small bouquet of flowers. "Ready as I'll ever be," Jax replied with a nervous smile, accepting the flowers. "Thanks. They're beautiful." "You deserve it," he said sincerely. "You've worked so hard for this moment." As guests began to arrive, Jax felt a mix of excitement and anxiety wash over her. She stood by her display, greeting friends and acquaintances who came to admire her work. Mia was among the first to arrive, beaming with pride. "Jax, this is incredible," Mia exclaimed as she examined the paintings. "You've really captured your journey." "Thanks. I'm so glad you're here," Jax said, feeling grateful for the support of her friends. As more people filtered into the gallery, Jax found herself engaging in conversations about her artwork, sharing stories about what inspired each piece and how they reflected her personal growth. With each interaction, she felt more at ease. The nervousness that had initially gripped her began to fade. "Your art is so powerful," one woman said, tears glistening in her eyes as she looked at a painting depicting turbulent waves crashing against rocks. "It resonates with me on so many levels." Jax felt a rush of warmth at the woman's words, a reminder that art could connect people in profound ways. "Thank you," she replied genuinely. "I've poured my heart into these pieces." As the night wore on, Jax noticed Kai moving through the crowd, engaging with guests and encouraging them to check out her work. His enthusiasm was infectious, and she felt grateful to have him by her side. When it was finally time for awards to be announced, the culmination of all their hard work, Jax stood among fellow artists feeling both excited and anxious. She glanced at Kai, who gave her an encouraging nod. "And now for Best Emerging Artist," the host announced, pausing dramatically before revealing the winner. The award goes to Jamie Jax Jackson. Jax's heart raced as applause erupted around her. Disbelief washed over her as she stepped forward to accept the award. Standing before everyone, her friends cheering loudly, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this moment, the culmination of embracing change and allowing herself to be vulnerable. As she held the award high above her head, a symbol not just of recognition but also resilience, Jax knew this was only the beginning. She was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, not just for herself but also for those connections waiting just beyond those waves ahead, connections that would help guide her toward healing and hope in ways she had never imagined possible before now. After accepting the award and giving a heartfelt speech about overcoming challenges through art, Jax stepped down from the podium feeling exhilarated yet grounded by everything that had unfolded that night. As guests continued to mingle and admire each other's work, Jax found herself standing beside Kai once more. "I can't believe I won," she exclaimed, still buzzing with excitement. "You earned it," he said proudly. "Your art speaks volumes about your journey. I couldn't have done it without your support," Jax admitted sincerely. "You've been there every step of the way." Kai smiled warmly at her, his eyes reflecting genuine admiration. "You're an incredible artist, Jax. I'm just glad I could be part of this journey with you." Feeling emboldened by their connection and their shared experiences over the past few weeks, Jax took a deep breath before speaking again. "I've been thinking about us." Kai raised an eyebrow curiously but patiently waited for her to continue. "I really value our friendship," Jax began cautiously but firmly. "And I feel like we have something special here, something worth exploring further." Kai's expression brightened instantly as he nodded enthusiastically. "I feel it too. I've been hoping you'd say something." With their hearts racing in sync, their connection deepening amidst laughter and celebration, they both knew they were ready to embrace whatever came next together. As they stood side by side watching guests admire Jax's artwork, a stunning collection telling stories through vibrant colors, she realized that this night wasn't just about recognition. It was about forging deeper connections not only with others but also within herself. With renewed strength coursing through their veins, Jax knew they were both ready to ride this wave together into uncharted waters ahead, embracing change not just as individuals but as partners navigating life's unpredictable currents hand in hand. Chapter 10: Finding Refuge. The days following the art show were a whirlwind of excitement and newfound purpose for Jax. The recognition she had received fueled her creative spirit, and she dove headfirst into her art, inspired by the connections she had made and the support she felt from her friends and community. With Kai by her side, they began planning their next mural, this time a larger project that would encompass the spirit of resilience and hope that had defined Jax's journey. They envisioned a vibrant mural on the side of a community center, where it could inspire others who might be facing their own storms. One sunny afternoon, as they stood in front of the blank wall, Jax felt a rush of exhilaration. "This is going to be amazing," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I can already see it in my mind. Let's get started." Kai replied, his enthusiasm infectious. They set to work, sketching out their ideas and discussing colors that would bring their vision to life. As they painted together, Jax felt a sense of camaraderie with Kai that went beyond friendship. They shared stories, laughter, and moments of vulnerability as they poured their hearts into the mural. Each stroke of paint became a testament to their growth, not just as artists, but as individuals navigating life's challenges. "Remember when we first started this journey?" Kai asked one day as they took a break to admire their progress. "Yeah," Jax replied with a smile. "I was so unsure about everything, about my art, about my relationship with my dad, but now it feels like I'm finally finding my footing." "You've come so far," he said sincerely. "It's inspiring to see how you've embraced change and opened yourself up to new possibilities." Jax felt warmth spread through her at his words. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted. "You've been my anchor through all of this." As they continued working on the mural, Jax found herself reflecting on her journey, the struggles she had faced with her father, the fear of failure that had once held her back, and the blossoming connection with Kai that had brought her joy and support. One evening after a long day of painting, they stood back to admire their work, a stunning depiction of waves crashing against a rocky shore under a vibrant sunset, surrounded by palm trees swaying gently in the breeze. It was a tribute to resilience and the beauty that could emerge from life's storms. "I can't believe we did this," Jax said breathlessly, taking it all in. "We did it together," Kai replied, his eyes shining with pride. "And I think it's going to inspire so many people." As they packed up their supplies for the day, Jax felt a sense of fulfillment wash over her, a realization that she was not only finding refuge in her art, but also in the connections she had forged along the way. The following week marked another milestone for Jax. Her father was finally discharged from the hospital. As she prepared for his return home, she felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Would they be able to continue rebuilding their relationship? Would he truly commit to being present in her life? When he arrived home, Jax greeted him at the door with a cautious smile. "Hey, Dad." "Hi, Jax," he said softly, looking around as if taking in everything he had missed during his time away from home. "I'm glad you're back," she said genuinely. "Me too," he replied, his voice filled with emotion. "I've missed you." They spent the evening together, catching up over dinner and sharing stories about what had happened while he was in the hospital. Jax felt nervous but hopeful. Each conversation brought them closer together as they navigated this new chapter in their relationship. Later that night, as they sat on the porch watching the stars twinkle above them, Jax turned to him with newfound courage. "I want us to keep talking about everything." "I want that too," he said earnestly. "I know I can't change the past overnight, but I'm committed to being here for you moving forward." In that moment under the vast Hawaiian sky, Jax felt an overwhelming sense of peace settle within her. Perhaps this storm wasn't just about destruction. It could also be about renewal if only they allowed themselves to embrace it fully. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Jax continued to paint and create while nurturing her relationship with her father. Each brushstroke became an act of healing, not just for herself but also for them both as they learned to communicate openly and honestly. One afternoon while working on their mural at the community center, Jax paused to take in the sight before her, the vibrant colors reflecting not only their hard work but also the connections forged along this journey together. "This is just the beginning," she said confidently to Kai as they stepped back to admire their creation. "Absolutely. We're creating something beautiful here," he replied warmly. As Jax looked at the mural, a stunning depiction of resilience and hope, she realized that embracing change had led her not only toward personal growth, but also toward unexpected connections waiting just beyond those waves ahead, connections that would guide her toward healing and hope in ways she had never imagined possible before now. With renewed strength coursing through her veins, Jax knew she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, not just for herself but also for those who walked alongside her on this journey through life's unpredictable currents hand in hand.